to Santopod for the opening round of the European drag racing season. It's the main event, and despite 2 days of intermittent rain spoiling practice for the drivers, nearly 6,000 people have turned out here for the final day. The track, well, that's now drying out, and although we've started late, we should be getting in all the action. So let's take a look at some of the eliminations coming up. First of all, it's Top Fuel. These 5,000 horsepower, 300-inch-long monsters will be doing battle together with their smaller cousins, the Top Alcohol dragsters and funny cars. Talking of funny cars, not quite. These are pro-modified, 6-second door slammers almost fit for the street. And these are the nitro-burning funny cars. We'll be seeing some action from them, as we'll be seeing the Top Fuel motorcycles. Well, this is the first chance to score points in the 1996 European Top Fuel Series, and all the top drivers are here. The Valvoline car featuring this pretty lady, Vivica Averstedt from Sweden. The existing 1995 champion, the European champion from Denmark, Jens Nebo. From Germany, the man who is yet to win a Top Fuel championship, Rico Antes. From Great Britain, Gary Page, more suited to a funny car than Top Fuel, and his co-patriot, Andy Carter, in his second season now as a Top Fuel driver. And finally, Pelle Lindelöf from Sweden, a man who won the championship in 1993, here to do battle. So this is how the grid looks. The quickest qualifier, that was Jens Nebo, meets the slowest qualifier, Germany's Rico Antes. All sorts of problems here this weekend. So our first pair then, it is Nebo, 1995 champion, against Rico Antes.
We have built a new body on the dragster and a new front wing. I have problems keeping the front wheel down on the track. So we built a new front wing, and we have a new clutch system and a new fuel system. But that's everything. And yesterday I have some problems with the clutch and the idle on the engine. We have a delay because of the weather, and the engine gets cold down on the starting area, and we have to stay there and warm it up before the burnout. And the idle went up, and the clutch is get warm and what do you call it, locked up. So I couldn't get it out of reverse and get into the staging. My target is 520 or something, and 278 miles per hour, I hope.
Well, everybody seems to have been having problems here this weekend. Certainly Jens Nebo was our #1 qualifier, having run a 5:39. And Rico this year with a new crew chief, not from America as he's had it before, but from Norway. Rune Field, an acknowledged funny car driver, now is turning his hands to a multi-crew chief. Not only is he working for Rico Antes as a crew chief, also for Gary Page, not only for Gary in the Top Fuel car, but also for Gary Page in the Top Fuel funny car. A very, very busy man. So here we go, looking for traction on the start line, and all sorts of problems on that start line for Rico Antes. And did you see that little twitch from Jens Nebo? Well, he runs through 6.34, but if we watch that again, as Rico comes dribbling through at the end of the run, we'll see that Jens Nebo crosses the outside line. So he automatically gets eliminated, would you believe, even though he's won the race. And it is Rico Antes who's going completely sideways from the start line. All sorts of problems from both drivers, and only now does Jens Nebo accelerate. Well, Vivica Averstedt is the next person up, so let's have a word with her.
During the winter time, we went over to the States and for 2 races in Florida and Texas. I mean, in Texas we ran 5:03 and 291 miles per hour. And I mean, 291 miles per hour, it's fast.
Now, can we expect that sort of thing over here this season in Europe?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this weekend we thought our goal was to try to make the first 4-second run. But I mean, you can see the weather. It's so cold, so it's going to be very difficult today.
Well, Vivica's up against Great Britain's Gary Page, but not for long. If you look very, very carefully under that engine, you can see fuel dropping down onto the ground, and the ever-vigilant start line crew shut Gary Page down. He does not want to run those slicks onto a wet surface. That could send that car anywhere. So it's a bye run then for the Valvoline car of Viveka Avestedt. And she was our number 2 qualifier with a 5:47 and cracks off a 5:33. 246 miles per hour, the quickest run so far of the meeting. From Great Britain, Andy Bad Boy Carter, the man from Chesham in Buckinghamshire, up against the man from Sweden, Pelle Lindelöf, a past champion at Top Fuel Racing. And Pelle, who's been in the sport, would you believe, in this class since 1981, makes no mistake at all. He runs through 5.66, a reaction time of 0.56, 254 miles per hour. Well, that will give Viveka Avestedt something to think about. But as the day wears on, she's happy in the knowledge that she has run the quickest so far. Well, the crowd is growing here, the weather has become more settled, and we're all warming up for the big battle of the day in the top alcohol class, and there's one man that everyone has come to see. Barry Sheebles.
For 96, we've decided to detune the motor slightly and go more for consistency than going out all the time for a 5-second run. So what we're really looking for is to run as consistent as possible in the low 6.1s to 6.0s, but do them consistently, and we think that's the way to win. And hopefully, by doing that, we'll reduce the breakages that we were getting last year. You know, to run a car all the time on the edge costs a lot of money.
Well, a lot of money and a lot of nerve too. Top alcohol cars can be dragsters or funny cars. They run high-grade alcohol as fuel, and they're only just slower than the top fuel cars. Alex June from Holland burns out. Let's take a look at the quarter-final lineup as we go into the last 8. As a round of the UK Top Alcohol Championship, there are, of course, mainly UK drivers, but we are being visited this weekend by 2 overseas European entrants. Peter Beck from Switzerland, Alex June from Holland. And strangely enough, they're drawn together in the first quarter-final. Peter Beck, in the right-hand lane in the dragster, was the number 1 qualifier. Alex June was the number 8, but suddenly June finds all of his power. He has a whole new setup in there, and Peter Beck just pips him on the finish line. They have almost identical reaction times. So look at the front wheels of that funny car up in the air there, and Peter Beck is charging hard in the dragster at the moment, trying to catch the young Dutchman up. Surely he must be the original Flying Dutchman, but it's Peter Beck who goes through into the next round. Well, what a great drag race to start the Top Alcohol Showdown, and this should be another. Rob Turner's dragster, well known here at Santa Pod, against another British driver, Tony Baker, in the Talk of the Devil. Would you believe this is a Ford Probe? Well, Tony Baker this year really starting to come to terms with his machine. Having been a champion in Ford Pops, now turns his attention to funny cars. But Rob Turner, with his ex-Corey McLennan car, scores a hit right from the start there. He gets out of the starting bees with a reaction time of 0.42. Already he made up 0.3 of a second and runs through 6.70. Well, let's watch this again. Rob Turner definitely away first. He's been practicing with a practice-at-home kit to try and get his start line reactions down. Well, it works, doesn't it? Rob Turner takes the win, marches on into the next round. He was our number 4 qualifier. But this is Barry Sheebles up against Mick Gledall. Mick Gledall still very much a rookie in this particular class, and Sheebles closest to the camera. As we head away there, both of them get almost identical start line reactions, but the power of Barry Sheebles' car really tells. He takes the win, 6.67, 215 miles per hour. And we watch this start line. Barry Sheebles got those front wheels right up in the air. My goodness me, he is finding some power on the start line. He's going to be hard to live with. Well, as the clouds gather, we go to the last quarter-final. Alan Jackson from Cheshire in the near side lane. And he's up against this man from Farber in Hampshire, Dave Wilson. And Dave really trying out a complete new setup. There isn't much on that car that isn't new this weekend, and he pulls the red light straight away from the start line. The win going to Alan Jackson automatically in the funny car. It's a red light for Dave Wilson in the opposing lane. So he's out, Alan Jackson marches on.
You're watching Sky Sports 2.
let's take a break from the big boys for a moment and catch up with the story of the Pro Modified class. This year, it's attracting its greatest ever entry for the class, so look out for some really great racing. Well, at least you can recognise the bodywork. It's a Ford Granada Scorpio. And this, believe it or not, is a Toyota Supra. They look just like road-going cars, but indeed, the Alan Packman car, the Granada Scorpio, runs with an 11,500 cc engine in it. The Toyota Supra that stopped on the start line, that was Bert Englefield, and he's got all sorts of problems there, just cannot get away. Al Packman, who was our #1 qualifier, does it again. 6.94, 201 miles per hour. What a storming run, a reaction time of 0.47, wheels up in the air. My goodness me, he is going to be difficult to beat. Well, into the second semi-final to decide who will run Packman in the final. This is Nick Davis with his Oldsmobile Cutlass, newly moved up into the class. And this, with the beautiful Rover 800 Coupe, is Andy Robinson, and this is nitrous oxide injection, that laughing gas which gives these drivers a third more horsepower on these already massive engines. Well, Nick Davis playing a little bit of a psychological game here, holding back from the start line. He's the last one to go in, and he makes Andy Robinson pull a red line. Well, automatically the win going to Nick Davis, a reaction time of 0.48 anyway, and runs through with a 7.22 at 189 miles per hour. He may well be the rookie in the class, but my goodness me, is he getting quick. And you can see that red light on the bottom of the Christmas tree in the right-hand lane. And Nick Davis is away on time. Andy Robinson knows that he's lost already. So it's Nick Davis in the final with Alan Packman.
It's a 1990 Oldsmobile Cutlass running 613 cubic inch engines, 10.1 litres. It's quite small really for Pro Modified, and it's one of the only cars as well running single carburettor, everybody else running twin carburettors. So slightly different setup to everybody else. I mean, the car behaves itself very, very well. It's an American built car, and to be honest, it really doesn't mind what the track's like. It does just go straight like an arrow. All the competitors are tough now. Everybody's so very good out there. We've got a few things up our sleeve. You have to wait and see, I'm afraid. I can't say any more than that.
The car was built in 1988 in Sweden by Håkan Everstedt. It's Rebecca Everstedt's husband. Raced it in Pro Stock. I've really got to know the car inside out. I like to modify it a lot, just keep it updated really, you know, chassis, etc. Nitrous oxide tuning, fitted 2 years ago, a 700-inch Hemi. It's a very potent piece. The other racers would not begin to believe the power it's got. Having said that, days like today, the track's not very good. Could be a hindrance, maybe not, we'll see.
Well, let's move straight along into the final, and Alan Packman, you can call me Al, sits there patiently while Nick Davis tries the psychological trick once more. Is it going to work with Al Packman, the man who has been previously 2 times champion in this class? I don't think so. Reaction time's very, very good for Nick Davis, a 47 to a 53 for Al Packman, but it's Alan Packman who does it again and records the quickest run of the whole weekend at 6.92, 202 miles per hour. Well, we're on to the top alcohol semi-finals, and let's have a look and see how they've lined up the final 4 in this particular class. This man, Peter Beck from Switzerland, will be meeting Great Britain's Rob Turner. Barry Sheebles up against Alan Jackson, both of those drivers from the UK. Well, on that quarter-final run, Rob Turner from Higham Ferris, just down the road from the track, actually broke a weld on the back axle, so he ended up with no brakes, and the team have really had to work hard to get him out into the semis. Well, they're away. Start line reactions are almost identical, and look at this, Peter Beck just takes it at the top end. Beck, 6.25, Rob Turner had stepped it up. He ran 6.36, but it just was not enough. Peter Beck is on form this weekend. Barry Sheebles then in the dragster. He's up against Al Jackson with the funny car. Nice smoky burnout. The funny cars, of course, by mere virtue of the fact that they are heavier, carry the larger engines. And Al Jackson is a man who is always out to improve on his car's performance. So coming up to the start line, Now then, let's watch for these start line reactions, all important. It's Barry Sheevels, wheels up again. Al Jackson fighting for control of the funny car, but it's Barry Sheevels all the way, 6.30, 219 miles per hour. Al Jackson, 7.10. He just could not stay with that dragster. So, going into the final, it's Barry Sheevels against the Swiss driver, Peter Beck.
Crew decided to put a little bit more clutch in to try and get a better launch, and we normally leave at around 6,000 revs from the line, and yesterday I left at 5, so said, oh, come on, let's get back into 6. So pulled away at 6,000, and it just popped the wheels a little bit, like as normal, and then I sort of felt it go back down, and then I thought, oh, hang on, I don't normally see the sky, and it just carried on going, and it was just the clutch, you know, it just hooked up and it was pure power. It was just going, and you know, these cars are actually aeroplanes with the wings turned the opposite way round, and at times they decide to take off, and it was on its way up.
And of course the fans here are behind Barry Sheevels, but the man on form is this man, Peter Beck. Will he be able to do it again? Barry Sheevels needs to cut a good light. That means he needs to react as close to 0.40 of a second as he can. And Sheevels reacts quickly, a 48 reaction time, but it's Peter Beck, look at this, past him like a steam train. Peter Beck takes the win, 6.27 to Barry Sheevels, 6.43. Well, it's the young Swiss driver who's now got all the consistency that Barry Sheevels said he was looking for. Certainly he's going to be a man to beat during the coming season. Okay, let's move away from Top Alcohol to Top Fuel once more, and we see Gary Page in the back of his Motorola funny car, having got out of the Top Fuel dragster, where he's not quite at home, into this machine. This is a sort of car that he's been driving for years and years and years. He knows funny cars like they were his own front room. Well, he's up against John Spuffard. John Spuffard in the Showtime Mac Tool sponsored machine. And John Spuffard, of course, the quickest man in funny car racing in Europe, has run that car down to a 5:46. Gary Page has previously piloted one of these machines to a 5:80, but they're finding it very, very hard to get traction here. These cars, like their Top Fuel dragsters, produce so much power, 5,000 horsepower, and the drivers fighting to try and control and put all that power down onto the strip. 7.72 says it all. That is not the sort of time we expect from a Top Fuel funny car. And you can see both of the cars lighting up the rear tyres, and of course they become so difficult to control.
It's like, I don't know which way it was, like this way, but they handle quite well when they come back, thankfully.
Handle quite well in opposite lock, do they?
Yeah. I'm going to take up rally driving, I think.
Well, we move on to Top Fuel motorcycle. Now, this is the equivalent, if you like, of Top Fuel cars. They run quite extraordinary looking motorcycles, but they use nitromethane. Some run just injected, some run with superchargers. Now on this machine, this is a Puma 1327cc motorcycle with Steve Woolett on board. Now Woolett has been around Top Fuel motorcycle racing for a good number of years now, and he is a regular visitor to the 200 miles per hour bracket. This bike will run the quarter mile in 6 seconds. I know I would like to be on there. Just watch this man leaning left, leaning right to keep the bike running straight. Goes through the top end, over the hump there, bouncing around all over the place. 6.83, 186 miles per hour. This is Russ Cook. Now, Russ Cook is on a machine which maybe 10 years ago was state-of-the-art. This is now state-of-the-art, as you see Phil Bainbridge on. These two are racing against one another. And Russ Cook, newly into this class, still coming to terms with this machine. But all eyes have got to be on Phil Bainbridge. He was the #1 qualifier. And again, he is a man who can run 6 seconds, 200 miles per hour. Up to the start line. Those electric beams which control the start line sequence on the Christmas tree, they react to the green coming on, and it's Bainbridge all the way through, runs a 6.75. That was the best of the action, and Bainbridge went on to win Top Fuel motorcycle in a solo run. So let's turn our attention now to the Top Fuel semi-finals. Rico Antes He's on a bye run through into the final, and Viveca Avestedt is against Pelle Lindelöf. So it's German into the final, and one of the Swedish drivers will be against him. This is the sound of a Top Fuel engine. He's up against the fastest lady in Europe. Viveca Avestedt has run 5:05 in this car. In America this year, she's run 5:03. Pelle Lindelöf, he's got to try and cut a good light here, but it's problems for him away from the start line. And Viveca lights up those rear tyres, just pops out the chute and coasts through. She's going to save that Valvoline car for the final. And the final puts her against the German Rico Anthes.
Again, I smoked the tires, and I mean, it was hard tire shakes too. So, and I couldn't see Pelle, the other car. So therefore, I mean, maybe I had the throttle too long time. We're still working more downforce, so see if it works better this round. We don't know yet. It's very hard to tune the car when it's so bad conditions. So I mean, we will see.
It's the first race for us, and we were hoping to, well, at least find some ideas how our work would proceed and how we are doing at this time. But we've never been able to put a full run in, because every time we try to, it's either the track is wet or the rain stops us from doing so. So we're still sitting here and waiting, and at this time a little bit bored.
Well, the crew round the car, and they've got problems already. It's an off-board starter which clips onto the blower belt, which fires it up, and that is a problem. It is just not working. And I tell you what, I would not like to be in that crew when Rico gets out of the car. He is going to be one very, very angry German Top Fuel driver. And down go the gloves. It's all over. Viveca Avestedt is the winner, and she is on her own here, lights up the car away from the start line, and that was her win. Running through there a 12:21 time, which means nothing in Top Fuel racing, but she gets maximum points on this first round of the European Top Fuel Championship. Well, the end of another marvellous day as the sun sets on Santa Pod, and we'll be back here again in July for the Cannonball. That's all about funny cars. We hope you'll join us then, but for now, goodbye.